Hey there, it's great to see you again. Today we're going to talk about something very interesting, the dimming of the monster, which is a deep look at how narcissists fail. It's important to understand this behavior, especially if you don't know much about narcissistic traits or personality disorders. What does an egotistical breakdown really look like? Stay tuned as we go into more detail about this subject and show how being close to a narcissist can trap people and keep them stuck in a bad loop. Let's bring this important issue to light. It can be hard to explain how deep a connection with a narcissist really is, like trying to untangle a bunch of wires that are tangled up. That's hard to put into words, but knowing it can save you a lot of pain, especially if you're dealing with a selfish family member, partner, or friend. To avoid getting caught up in their chaos, it's important to learn how to deal with these situations. Let's talk about narcissistic breaks now. They show up in different ways, last for different amounts of time, and hit with different amounts of force. Basically, it's when the self-centered front doesn't live up to its high claims. Personally, I don't shy away from recognizing the spiritual side, even the darker sides that some people give in to. Sometimes it seems like the ego is barely able to keep up. Its goals haven't been met yet, and it looks like everything is falling apart at the same time. No longer able to take energy from other people, the ego is worn out. Even their partner, who is probably also tired, can't keep up with them. Work is a mess, and money problems are getting worse. In short, life throws them curveballs, and it's hard for them to deal with them. Picture this: narcissists are very good at hiding how ashamed they are. No matter how bad things are for them, they'll keep up a front of calmness and act like everything is fine. Why? Since they want other people to be jealous of them. However, when things get tough and life throws them a bunch of curveballs, they hit a wall. During those times, they might turn to their vices to find comfort in a made-up world where they are still in charge. It's not a good way to avoid truth. I had this realization during one of my coaching meetings. Let me tell you a story. There was this person at work who was a real diva who was making a lot of trouble. They were acting in every way that a narcissist would. They were lying, making charges that were not true, and everything else. They were blatantly pushing for a raise and gave off a bad vibe. Then there was radio quiet. The narcissist's behavior changed a lot. Instead of looking grand as usual, they looked like they had just rolled out of bed, a total mess. We found out later that they had been hitting the bottle hard. It turned out that they were very upset about not getting the raise they were so eager for. Without notice, they fell apart, the show stopped, and chaos gave way to emptiness. They started asking for help, being late, and even sitting down when they were supposed to be standing. They seemed to have hit rock bottom, and somebody or something had slapped them back to reality. At this point, the ego's big plans fall apart, leaving them hurt and confused. They won't say out loud that they've failed, but they will quietly look for comfort and sympathy from anyone who is willing to give it to them. They'll put on the mask of suffering and put on a convincing show to take other people's energy and get through their existential funk. It can be very hard to be in a relationship with a narcissist, whether it's with a partner, close friend, or family member. All of a sudden, their once dominant ego seems to have been tamed, showing a weak, almost childish side. You get hints of who they really are, the person they could have been and the person they put on right now. Some people might be tempted to think that they've changed. Let's not be fooled though. This brief showing is just a crack in the mask that lets you see a bit of who they really are. Even though it seems real, it's still only a small part of the truth. Don't get it wrong, the ego may be tamed for a while, but it's always there, ready to show its ugly head again. Do not be fooled. Stay alert, knowing that this is only a short break from the demon's control. Seeing someone go through a mini collapse can make you feel sorry for them. It looks like they are really hurting as they ask for help. Our natural tendency is to lend a hand, especially if it's someone we care about. But this is where the water gets cloudy. They soak up our love and pity like a sponge and use it to make themselves stronger. Little by little, each act of kindness makes us feel like, see, I'm not so bad after all. But if our acts don't match what they want, or if we don't follow through quickly enough, their vanity comes back. They put the blame on us, making it seem like it's our fault that they're in this situation. They quickly get back on their high horse and ride the rise of narcissism. One of the problems is that when we offer help, we leave ourselves open to being knocked down again. Their short-lived weakness may show that they are real, but it's important to remember that this doesn't define who they are at their heart. Their narcissistic traits are not a temporary problem. They choose to be that way, which shows what kind of person they really are. Being aware and careful while watching someone go through a mini collapse is important. In a way, it's like the ego getting a dose of its own medicine, a warning from the cosmic forces. Don't let yourself get caught up in this brief moment, though. It's important to see it for what it is, a short-term slip-up, like a quick peek behind the curtain. Remember that this is just a front that hides the real person you've been struggling with the whole time. Even if they say sorry for this small setback, don't let it change your mind. It doesn't show a sudden realization or a real drive to change. They are instead looking for something from you, like your help, support, or care. The danger is that they quickly go back to their old selves once they feel a little better. They go back to their old tricks of making excuses, moving blame, and trapping you in their lies. Nothing will change unless you break out of this loop. The only thing that might get worse is your own health. No matter how hard it is, you need to realize that this temporary weakness does not mean that things will change for good. It's just one more part of the same story. They will keep pulling you into their toxic cycle unless you fight back. Believe me, you don't want to stay caught in their web. Don't let the fact that they are temporarily weak cloud your judgment. Stay determined and focused on making your own way. You should get nothing less. Imagine a narcissist, who is probably in the middle of or close to the end of their journey, getting a harsh reality check. The bad things they did in the past come back to haunt them. Their health gets worse, their money runs out, their relationships fall apart, and the front they worked so hard to keep up starts to fall apart. This is a rough drop. Imagine that they put all of their money and time into one bad plan, which failed horribly. Right now, they are poor, alone, and maybe even homeless. They hit rock bottom and were struggling with their new problems. If they give in to old habits, they might end up humbling themselves and running to their parents for safety. In this weak state, they show a side that is rarely seen. They are weak, upset, and lost. People who are still worried rush to help them. It looks like the narcissist is signaling that they want to be forgiven. It can be dangerous to go through this point. You feel a glimmer of hope, saying to yourself, maybe they'll realize their mistakes and start changing for the better. Because you care about them, it's only normal to want to do that. In fact, though, if there is any change at all, it only lasts a short time unless something miraculous happens or someone decides to go to therapy. Their very nature, their essence, is highly ingrained. It's how they normally act. They might change how they act for a short time, but they will eventually go back to their old ways. As hard as it might be, don't expect long-lasting change to happen right away. It's like expecting a cat to quickly bark, which goes against their natural behavior. It's like telling a lion to change into a cow, a nice idea, but a completely impossible possibility. Even if the lion temporarily acts like a cow, its core stays the same. That is the unchangeable truth about personalities. They don't change much. It's hard to believe that someone who is being kind and considerate could go back to their old ways after they get better. Still, that's the hard truth. When they are at their worst, bad people are eager to accept any help that comes their way. They might even think about what they did, say sorry, and agree to go to therapy, which is something their loved ones have been waiting for a long time. There looks like divine action took place. But let's be honest, narcissists are very unlikely to want to go on such a life-changing trip. Online, there are a few success stories here and there, but they're hard to find. The truth stays the same: most narcissists don't change their minds. You should be careful if you still hope for a magical change. Most of the time, pessimism is the more sensible way to think. Pay attention. A narcissist usually goes through a long time of being unhappy, maybe 6 months to a year, before they hit rock bottom. During this time, they become very focused on themselves in a strange way. Instead of thinking about how to make things better or looking for work, they are looking for quick fixes or easy ways out of their situation. There are many examples of narcissists getting married to make money or tricking their parents into giving them money as a quick fix. When their pride starts to show again, you can tell they are starting to do old things again. What are these old habits, anyway? Lies, trickery, and pushing their way through life to get what they want. Their needs always come first. It's always about them. When someone has a selfish breakdown, one of two things usually happens. First, there are the mini-crises, which are short periods of time when the narcissist's behavior gets out of hand. People nearby need to be very careful not to get caught up in their theatrical performances. The narcissist then goes through a big collapse, during which they become deeply depressed and look for any way they can to escape. But there's a catch: the final breakdown does happen sometimes. This is when the narcissist feels completely helpless, but may not ask for help because their pride is hurt. Unfortunately, ending relationships is the only way for some narcissists to get better. Let us look into the idea of karma and how it relates to the narcissist's fate. According to karma, what you do has an effect on other people, and people who only care about themselves and not others will finally suffer the effects of their actions. Some narcissists may do good things for others, but it's usually because they want to boost their own egos, not because they really care. But what happens when bad luck strikes? This is the start of the narcissist's fall. Instead of taking responsibility for their actions, they use other people's time and energy to lessen the effects of their actions. That's why it's a loop that has no end in sight. If you see a narcissist who is having a bad time, try to help them if you can, but don't get involved in their drama. Remember that you can't change the way they act because it's part of who they are. Don't give up, and watch out for their attempts to control your feelings. If you need to leave, do it quickly and firmly, and if you need to, get help. Don't let them make themselves into the bad guy in your story, though. Not everyone is out to get you. Many people will love and support you just the way you are. That's all for today.